we supposed to be using these? Like, are they ready to go or?
I think they are. I just haven't.
I just have all my
Check my-
stuff for
yeah.
tonight on this one, so. I'll go with that. Yeah, I'm ready anytime you want to start.
Ms. Lefevre, you ready? Okay. Okay, I would like to call our traffic commission meeting to order. Would you please rise and join me in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance? Now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, so I guess up first on our agenda, we have the traffic report for July. And I see we have a couple points of discussion. Who wants to run with this?
I can start. You should have had an update from Cindy in reference to the traffic commission notes. And there's a second East Hempfield on, and I don't know if that's her or not, but as far as Lidl goes, we've discussed that at several previous traffic commission meetings for two reasons: the left turn at Good Drive and Lowe's, and then also the right turn lane and access into Lidl. At this point, as far as the left turn arrow into Lowe's, it is functioning as it was originally designed. If we want to make changes, we would need to petition PennDOT to do that, and it would be at our cost. The traffic engineer said that it is functioning as it was meant to function. It only becomes a problem if there are multiple cars waiting to turn into Lowe's northbound on Good Drive. And then the Columbia access from Lidl, we've discussed with Lidl and with PennDOT multiple occasions. And there was discussion at a previous meeting to potentially make the dedicated right lane into a through lane. However, the traffic engineer did traffic studies, reviewed information from past and present, and it appears that that would actually potentially have a negative impact on the traffic at that intersection. PennDOT is willing to discuss closure of the Lidl access, but only if we can substantiate a problem. And other than 3 accidents shortly after the opening of Lidl, there have not been accidents at that access point. So at this point, it would be hard to create documentation of a safety concern. So at this point, it would be staff's recommendation that we put closure on both of those concerns as they have been studied and determined to be functional as they are.
So, and I saw the memo and it asks the question. So I just want to be clear, we did verify there were no accidents, reportable or non-reportable accidents at that location. Okay.
I was just through there and I don't know when they put the paint stripes down, but there are stripes there and it doesn't look like you should be in that lane if you want to make a right. So by the looks of it, it shouldn't be a problem. I mean, I don't know if that was something recent. I don't go over that way a whole lot.
Any discussion on that, Mr. LaFever?
No, I do not have anything.
My wife works with somebody that lives in the neighborhood back there, and initially she was talking about that there was a problem there, but I haven't heard anything recently, so maybe it has cooled down or people figured it out.
So at this point, staff's recommendation is that we're not going to do anything or petition PennDOT to make any changes. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this particular issue? Can you come up to the microphone and give us your?
You just hit the power button when you go up to make sure that the light is green. It should have been yellow and should just turn green.
There we
you
go. That's the neighborhood I live off of, and I can tell you, I'm always on the trying to make a right onto Good Drive. No one adheres to waiting all the way to the last cross to make it in. So if I try to adhere to that, I feel like it's really nerve-wracking because a lot of cars have already long gone to turn and pass me when I'm trying to wait to turn right. So I feel like it is a concern.
So are you referring to Columbia Avenue going westbound?
Yes,
Okay. And is this, I'm assuming at high volume
yes.
times?
I mean, anytime. I work part-time, so I'm on the road in the morning, in the afternoon. And I was always thinking like, I wish there were cones here so that people would not be able to cut it to turn. I feel like the people that are actually waiting to turn are the ones that are going to get rear-ended by the cars that have like long been in that lane to turn. But
Is there stripes on there on the pavement?
there's 2 sets of stripes, yes.
Okay, so people really
Oh my
should
gosh,
not be in
absolutely.
that lane.
So I even feel like in order to be a defensive driver, I even have to get over quicker, even though I should be not, but just so that no one like hits the back of my car.
For the minutes, can you give us your name and address?
Sure.
please?
Kara Torres, 1609 Wheatland Avenue.
Thank you.
I think we talked to, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I think we did talk with Lidl about a pork chop or something there, and they were not interested in that. Is that correct? I wonder why. It wouldn't really
Correct. It
affect
was,
them.
it was determined that the design as it is effective and appropriate. And so it would be additional cost, I would assume, on everyone to make those improvements.
So are the engineers telling us it's functioning as designed, right?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. Is there a way that we can like go out and just take a look at peak time,
Mhm.
Chief, and
Yes.
just see what's going on there? And if,
Absolutely.
if you feel like there's something else that needs to be done, or if maybe it's just an enforcement issue, if it's not enforcement, if there's signage or something else that we could do there, whatever you think, that would be great. And we'll keep it on for now. Anyone else on the Lytle access? Okay. Shank Road?
So if you remember at the May Traffic Commission meeting, we discussed information provided by Sergeant Lombardo, myself, and Perry Madonna as to the current signage. And at that time, you had indicated you did not desire to add more signage and concluded that what was in place, along with the stone that we had added, was a solution for now. Since then, Cindy has had contact with Raffo Township, and they have indicated that they want to follow through with the recommendations from the county review report, limiting the length of trailers associated with trucks and other things. And so it is her desire just to confirm one last time to go back to the county and to Raffo that you are not interested in adding the additional signage and the additional restrictions on the East Hempfield Township side of the bridge.
Well, was part of that because we didn't have a reply from Raffo?
I don't believe so. Everything that we looked at was on our side of the bridge. I mean, we looked at the fact that they already had signage similar to what we have. The primary points in the discussion were the fact that there is lots of signage there already. Sergeant Lombardo had indicated that they're not obeying the signs that are there, so putting further restrictions was not going to be effective because they're not obeying what's there, and he didn't expect that they would obey additional restrictions as well. So
Are the restrictions uniform on both sides currently?
currently, yes.
I wonder, can Rafa go ahead without us going along with it? I mean, can they just act independently of us, or does it have to be both of us or nothing?
I believe that they can do the restrictions on their side of the bridge without us restricting the opposite direction.
Guess if we don't see the need for it and they do, then there's no reason they can't just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I also think too, if just to be a good neighbor, we should probably have a manager to manager discussion about it. And maybe feel them out and see, see if what they want from us specifically, and if they're going to be, upset if we don't go along with what their recommendations are and take another look at it.
Now, another side of that coin maybe is the signs that we have, where they put their kind of like haphazardly, or were they actually put there with some thought behind it? I mean, they may have been there 25 years and it just kind of they just got put there, and maybe there is a better way to do it.
Perry and Sergeant Lombardo had reviewed those prior to the May meeting and indicated that they're all appropriately placed and the appropriate signage and so on. So we did look at that previously, and those pictures were provided in May.
I observed a
Thank you.
sign on the RAFO side that
Mr. LaFever, can you use your microphone, please?
contributing to the problem. And as I read it, coming northbound on Espenshade, it restricted trucks from going onto Auction Road, which would be the left turn. Therefore, they would have to go through the bridge, or they would have to turn around somehow. So I'm glad to see that RAFO is studying it, because hopefully they'll find that that isn't contributing to a solution. It's really kind of struck me strange that when I read it.
So should we, encourage the managers to discuss it?
Sure. So I'll let Cindy know that you'd like her to follow up with the Rafa Township manager and just get a better understanding of their expectations and discuss ours, and we'll go from there.
If we could have a township meeting, walking the site, that might work, as we did on our side with the stop signs and the encroachment on the Long and Ecker property. We got a solution from that. And that could be beneficial if we could walk it on site. That way we're seeing firsthand what is there, not relying on our memories.
Why don't we start with the manager, and then maybe we'll go to that next step if we decide we're going to be working together.
Okay, I could participate in that.
Okay. School Lane Alley in Roarstown, consideration of closing at Mayor.
I'm going to let Chief Brubaker take this one.
Sure. We'd received a complaint about speed on the School Lane Alley, which I believe Ms. Garber has the Google view up of the alley. The alley is a one-way posted that you can travel southbound from Marietta towards Mayor. Concern of speed was not validated based on the speed study that was performed, but we did have 50 vehicles that were determined to go the wrong way, which was also a complaint on the alley.
Okay.
So after some consideration and a number of us driving down and checking out the alley, if there truly is a concern by the residents for the safety of kids at play, so on and so forth down there, that staff would consider a solution, and probably one of the best solutions to stop the wrong way driving on that alley would be to close off the alley at Mayor. There's 2 residents between Mayor and Front Alley. that would be affected by this, but they already, because of the one-way, need to kind of circle around the block to get to their property anyways. Most likely this is being used as a cut through to bypass traffic at 741 in Marietta by local residents or residents of Roarstown proper itself. So I'm not really sure how we can fix the one-way driving other than if the residents are that concerned, blocking it off there, which would impact the two residents that live on the one block stretch. So,
So is it your recommendation that we should take a look at closing the alley?
yes, sir.
Okay.
How many people, how many properties are there? I'm not saying I disagree with it, but
Mhm.
I'm just saying before we do something and then have maybe half the residents want it closed and the other half don't, and then we hear from the other side, like, can we kind of take a poll or something or talk to those property owners? I don't know how many there are, but maybe some people want it to stay open.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes.
So that would be our intent. Our intent would be to, if the commission is interested in moving forward with this, the next step would be to reach out to the residents to
Okay.
get their feedback.
Okay.
So I guess we have two options, right? We can do strict enforcement and start citing our residents for,
And it's sporadic. That would
Right.
be within
Be
the
difficult.
week-long speed study that was conducted. It was 50 vehicles.
Yeah.
So our random times down there, it would be sporadic of which we would find those violations based on. If you're looking at a week's period of time, 50, you're, 8, 10 vehicles a day.
well, anyone from the audience that would like to speak to this issue for the Roarstown alley? So gentlemen, what's the will? Do you want to move forward with this and start with the residents in Roarstown? And
Yes.
okay, well, let's do that. So I'm assuming we'll send out notices and to the residents of Roarstown or that will be
Yes,
impacted by
that
this.
Primary, the corridor and the cross streets.
Okay.
How did it come to our attention? I don't remember exactly, but was it residential driven or,
Yes, sir.
okay. So there are definitely some people that would like it
That are
closed.
That are concerned about the speed in the one-way. They were not, we haven't discussed the closure of it with them yet. But that would be our best solution to fix the
Thanks.
problem brought to us.
Anything else that anybody wants to discuss reference to the traffic report for July?
Mr. Chairman, if I could just back up to Shank Road.
Yes.
So Shank Road, we have a two report that was prepared by the county that was prepared in January of this year. Reviewed it in May. RAFO is willing to follow the county recommendations, which is to add the signage. Our next step would be to go along with that, which is just an action of the Traffic Commission. It makes little sense to do one side and not the other. It would involve approximately adding 4 more signs. Whether they would be more enforceable, ignored, we're not sure. And I'm just checking back with the board of the commission if you're interested in following through with the county recommendation.
So I'm guessing did you hear our discussion on this prior?
I did. I don't know that a discussion with Raffo Township manager and myself would result in anything other than that they would like to pursue it. My commission has said they're not interested.
But we did not, this is the first we've heard that RAFO wanted to pursue it, correct?
Yes,
So that does change things and they're asking for our participation.
yes.
Okay. I think we, just as good neighbors, would like to reach out to them to know how serious they are and if this is a priority for them. I don't see an issue putting up 4 signs. I think we didn't feel it was necessary, but if you could reach out to their manager and just determine that this is of importance to them, then I think we could make that decision.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
I mean, I don't, if it's for sign, I mean, I could go either way. I just, if they really want to do it, I wouldn't be opposed to it. It doesn't really hurt us any.
If they have extended an effort, I would think we should accept it and participate.
So I'm there too. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. We understand what it means. And that this is a priority for them. If they do, then fine, we'll move forward with it.
I'll reach out. Thank you.
Okay. Minutes from June 15th, 2022 meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from June 15th, 2022?
I will move to approve those minutes as prepared. I do have a bit of discussion on an item there, but I think we can approve the minutes first.
Is it something that you think needs to be changed?
No.
Okay.
No.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Motion was made by Mr. LaFever and seconded by Mr. Weaver.
The minutes read, and it's correct, that we've had an improvement from something like 53% to 33%. So we have gained some ground on the speeding issue on Spring Valley. It's not in the report this month, and so there's a suggestion we are satisfied with that. And I am going to question if we should be satisfied with that. And I've had a thought, and if you'll humor me as it were, to listen through, my thought is for 1 month to barricade Spring Valley Road at the location, the intersection of Dorsia Road. So it is in effect closed for through traffic for 1 month. During that period of time, I would hope those that are speeding on that, which I suspect are mostly people who travel it daily, would get the message that we are serious about speeding on Spring Valley Road. And they may find other routes to travel that they become comfortable with and no longer need to use Spring Valley. At the end of that month, I would say we open it again and hope that we have made a clear statement and then evaluate whether in fact we've improved it more. And if we haven't, well, then we still have the problem we have. But that's in desperation, how do we stop speeding? And the bumps, the tables, anything short of enforcement 24/7 doesn't work. So this is a thought that I had. I think it has merit. And I'd like to have us consider that.
Well, as a thought experiment, that's a great idea. I think in practicality, we would get a lot of, if we had a reason, like fixing potholes, maybe, but just seems a little like a bridge gatey type thing. I think I'd be a little leery of doing that. That's just my opinion.
Leery of what, sir?
Leery, a little what, a little bridge gatey, like in New Jersey when the bridge was closed. It just,
Oh, well, there are always two sides to everything, but we have an issue there that we haven't resolved. And I don't think we can accept it as it is now. And I suspect, I can only speculate that if we were to do another study now, we would find that it's somewhere higher than the 33%. So I guess the question is, how serious are we about controlling the speed on Spring Valley Road?
I mean, right now, school's out, so we wouldn't have a school bus issue, but you know, that's gonna be another, what, a month and a half? And the bus, I don't think the school district's gonna wanna reroute their buses. So
So-
emergency access, you know, there's a lot of ramifications there.
For myself, I'm going to say that I appreciate you thinking about it. I think something like that, for me, would be the absolute 100% last resort to anything that we would do. I think Mr. Weaver brings up some good points, emergency access. Also, I mean, it is, it does provide access to the schools, to LGH campus. It's a major east-west route in our township. I know it's a little less than Harrisburg Pike or Marietta Avenue, but I just, boy, I can't go in that direction. I mean, if there's some other things that you want to attempt, I'd be glad to hear them, but that one for me would be tough.
I would be glad to hear of something also. And I would remind all that I was the voice to not close Farmingdale Road. I abhor closing roads. It is not the right solution to anything. But I am at the point where on Spring Valley Road, I don't see any other solution. And just the driving behavior everywhere, but for us to deal with, has just become unmanageable. And unless we can assert our sincerity, we are not going to get it stopped. So that's my suggestion for what it's worth. I would hope it gets some thoughts beyond this meeting. And I see you have a public comment on this.
Can, Mrs. Jacobson, thank you.
Colleen Jacobson, 2009 Chapel Forge Drive. Are you talking from Dorsia to Sylvan? Is that the section of road that you want to close?
I'm putting a barricade in the middle, so both ways have to come and go. They cannot go straight through.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to even to think that because of the construction that's going to be starting on the Centerville corridor. There's going to be a lot of deviation of routes just from that. And I anticipate that going on Spring Valley, more cars being on Spring Valley because of that detour or people avoiding that construction area. In fact, I'm concerned because there was a couple here months ago that lived on Dorsia and they had a car accident right at their corner. And when you come, it's curvy. I'm concerned about the new traffic that's going to be on Dorsey because of the corridor traffic, detours, or just the congestion that's going to occur. So, I think we just need to let it flow. And there's always going to be speeders, always. And we've done, as a township, we've done everything we can as a township to stop that. So, I mean, if there's an accident, having been a claims adjuster, if there's an accident on there, I mean, you guys have the best records to present in court. I mean, you've done everything to stop that, and you can't control someone driving a car. It's just that way. But that road between Sylvan and Dorsey, that whole section is going to be inundated with a lot more vehicles in the coming months. When is the construction supposed to start on the corridor?
Year end, early spring.
Of
I
next year?
understand what you're saying. You can argue things both ways at all times and purposes. I'm just suggesting that if we're serious about slowing that traffic, that's a way to do it. And it might not work. I don't like the suggestion that we can say, we just are going to accept that people are going to drive the way they drive. I don't
No.
think that's our role here.
Well, no, but I mean, you know, we can go back to Centerville Road too, but that's not on the agenda right now. But we can apply that same logic to Centerville Road with the trucks and what have you. That's why it's, you know, how far are we willing to go as a township to stop someone from speeding?
That's the question before us. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
I keep doing that.
sorry.
You want to say, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I just wanted to, I mean, we got a couple other things on the agenda and I feel like we've discussed this. I don't think there's support to move it forward
Yeah, I'll
at this point.
just say very quick, I know there's a process to close roads because I know we've done it. It's for construction purposes. If there's something that needs to be fixed on Spring Valley Road, like a culvert replacement, then by all means, let's do it. But I'm sure there's notifications that have to go out ahead of time and I'm sure it's a whole procedure that has to be followed. So if that was all done and necessary, then sure. And I also think it would just, if it does divert traffic, it may end up in other neighborhoods. And then we will be hearing from them, and it generally is a case where the problem just gets pushed somewhere else and doesn't really go away, but that's all I had.
Sir, you had a comment?
Dan Porter, 1090 Hunter's Path. Just out of curiosity, is there any type of ability to use automated systems to enforce traffic adherence?
For speeding?
Is there any way to do that with state support?
There's cameras used in Maryland that I've seen and they can be very effective. They don't need to be manned by police personnel and things. I've mentioned that before and it did not get any credence, or I think the answer is yes, but I don't think we're aware of what they would be.
Chief, can you briefly speak to that point?
Sure. I'd have to do a little bit of research about the enforceability, the cost, what methods can be used in Pennsylvania for that at this point. So, but I am well aware of costs for license plate readers themselves, which just scan the plates and provide you info there. And they're not necessarily a device that can be used to cite owners of vehicles that are speeding, so.
So maybe
I'm
that-
aware of the Lancaster Integrated Traffic Plan 2016. You have your 2040 Lancaster Regional Plan as well. Both of these plans indicate significant problems with concerns for pedestrians as well as bicyclists and the safety of people on the streets. So I think if the police chief can look into that, I think that'd be a great thing if it could be an additive benefit to the safety of the people, you know, along those corridors. Does everybody, would there be any reason from your standpoint that you would not agree with that?
Well, one, I think the legality of it, we've got to find out about. So there's a big question there. Who can do it? Can a municipality do it? Or does it have to be state run? Who pays for it? What are the costs to maintain it? Again, legalities, the machines are going to have to be purchased, calibrated, maintained, if we can even do it. The only place that I've seen in Pennsylvania, any of this being done is along the turnpike. And I'm not sure if they're actually doing enforcement or if they're sending out just warning letters. So I think we need to do a little research on that and get back to you on what actually can be done. And I agree with you, the second part of what you said, especially about pedestrians and bicyclists. This particular roadway and where we're talking about was not designed, and there's no way really for us to functionally make it safe for pedestrians. We do not want pedestrians on this road in the area that we're talking about. So we really want to be clear with that as well.
I understand that. And I think that also within the 2040 plan, there are other suggestions to help pedestrians and bicyclists and people who aren't driving. One last question to Chief of Police. Are you aware of any regional police force using shared resources like this? And could you look into that as well, the possibility of a Lancaster regional shared resources for communities to offset their costs and perhaps use the equipment on a rotating basis.
I can look into that.
Thank you.
So at this point, I'd say if we're going to have any more discussion on this, let's come back to it. The one thing that I want to make sure that we get to tonight is there's a scope of services in our pack for the truck route study. Did everybody get that, get a chance to review it? Are you happy with what you see there? And Mrs. Garber, can you give the audience a little background of what I'm talking about here?
Sure. So we have, through multiple meetings in the past, both in Traffic Commission and in the Board of Supervisors, had multiple questions and complaints about truck traffic on our major northwest routes through the township, including but not limited to Centerville Road, Nestle Road, Running Pump, Stony Battery. And the Traffic Commission and the Board of Supervisors had indicated to staff a need to review truck traffic throughout the township and determine what, if anything, could be done to improve safety and truck travel across the township. And so the police department and staff worked together to determine what the primary concerns were across the township, and then reached out to the traffic engineer to discuss those concerns and to create a scope of work that would allow us to evaluate truck traffic throughout the township. What was determined through staff and police department review was that the east-west routes are not a problem. They're state roads, they're made for truck traffic, and they do provide that primary corridor for the travel. Where we have concerns is the north and south corridors. And so what you have before you is a scope of work from McMahon Associates, our traffic engineer, that would evaluate the north-south routes through the township, specifically those Stony Battery Road, Centerville Road, and Good Drive, as those are the primary key points that police department and staff recognized as focus areas. Roarstown and Church Street are not included because they're state roads and they are already evaluated. So what you have before you is a scope of work determined by McMahon, reviewed by staff. We did go back and forth with McMahon on some adjustments and changes to make it as feasible and cost-effective as possible to be able to get some determinations made on where our trucks travel, how they travel, why they travel, and what we can do to make it safer and more direct for trucks to travel north and south through the township.
And one other thing I would add as well, if I'm, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but we cannot enforce the weight limit signs and the restriction signs right now as they are on Centerville Road. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And this study will be the first step in getting us to a point, if we decide to limit truck traffic in any area, that we will be able to do enforcement in regards to that.
That is correct.
Okay.
18 months ago, we had a meeting of staff, Public Works, and I guess we did not have the traffic engineer in present. But this has already moved that the need is there. What I don't see in this proposal is a cost estimate.
So at this point, the way I took it and read it is that we were going to agree on what the scope was before we got the cost. I didn't have a cost or detailed analysis on cost in my packet either.
I believe that we have a cost. I just need to find it for you here. Just give me.
The scope seems to be comprehensive. I don't have any issue with what is proposed.
Yep. I just want to make
And
sure I have
I'm
the
thinking we should know what it's going to cost.
current. Give me 1 second here to navigate Google Drive. and
Yeah,
let's-
while Diane's looking for
is-
that, I believe it's like just under $7,000. I'm not quite sure why you don't have a copy. It could be that you got page 1, 3, and 5,
Here's 7 or 70? Or what's-
7,
7.
7000.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe, is that that's in our packet to approve under the board's action items as well, correct?
Correct.
If
It's
we
for you to
recommend
make a
it.
recommendation to the board and then to be approved at the Board of Supervisors.
I mean, I'm not a traffic engineer, so I don't know what would be involved, but it seems like you'd have to look at the crashes and speed data and all the things that they're looking at there. So I assume that they know what they need to look at, and it does make sense that would be what they need. Price doesn't seem outrageous. It is something we need.
I am once again only finding the scope of work and not the associated cost, and I'm not sure why.
I'd make a motion if you want to see if there's public comment or.
Okay. I would like to have costs before we do.
Yeah,
make
my
the-
apologies.
Is there any public comment on the scope of work or what we're about to do going forward with the truck traffic?
Colleen Jacobson, 2009 Chapel Forts Drive. Now, I heard you say that those signs that are up on Centerville Road right now are not enforceable?
Correct.
Now, why is that?
Right now, the signs that are posted actually would include like a pickup truck when it says no trucks. It's not meant for,
Tractor trailers?
correct. It would encompass all trucks. So that would include your Ford F-150, anything like that.
Okay,
So
so are they going to be taken down?
it's part of what's being discussed with the
So-
encompassing truck issue in the township.
So then the major 18-wheeler truck traffic that we get on Centerville Road, that's okay? Then is that going to be okay with the town, with the scope that you're talking about?
So no, to answer your question, that's part of the reason that we're doing the scope is to look at where it is best for those trucks to be north-south. Even right now, if we said we don't want them on Centerville Road, we need to have some study that backs that up
Okay.
by a qualified traffic engineer.
Okay.
And
I'm all
this,
for that.
okay.
And not in the summer. Now, there's a lot, I know there's a lot of students that walk, okay? And they sign, the parents sign a permission slip in the office, school office, that they can be walkers whenever they want or whatever. It's not a day thing. And a lot of the students, they walk on the grass from the schools. They also cross Centerville Road to go to Turkey Hill. No, it's Turkey Hill. And that is very dangerous. And we had the Centerville Traffic Committee met the other night at the gazebo. And, you know, I guess there's so far like 80 people that they weren't there, all there, but are joining this because their kids walk home. They might not live along Centerville Road, okay, but the kids have access to it and they walk. And, all it takes is that little steering wheel and the tractor trailer to go, onto the grass area. But, and the speed they go, and my backyard is on Centerville Road. And I can sit at my island and eat my breakfast and the trucks just keep coming back and forth. So too fast for me to even get their names. like, I think there's England is one of them. You know, you know, I'm gonna have to sit my butt out in this, on the other side of the fence and just write names down, you know, because you know, the speed, you know, if it's, one thing is the truck, the next thing is the speed that they go. And, you know, and I know the hospital, when that opens up, when is that gonna be opening?
October.
October. That's gonna slow the trucks down because they're not gonna wanna sit in traffic because that's gonna all back up. And what's gonna happen is, and I know it because I just envision it, they're gonna be going using developments to cut cars are. It's like cars act like water. It's the path of least resistance. If they start backing up, they're gonna be making a left on Chapel Forge or a right on Chapel Forge to try to beat the traffic. And trucks might do that, but trucks might not even use that route because they're gonna be sitting in traffic. And that the last thing the truck wants to do is sit in traffic. But I know we have a lot going down the pike with the construction on Centerville Road too. Now, did you say, I thought it was gonna start this spring, this summer or this fall, the corridor?
They have pushed back the let date several times for the Centerville Road South project. So at this point, I believe the let date is not until September, which pushes back construction even further.
Okay, all right. But, you know, Centerville is in for a lot of transformation in a few months that we have left. So, you know, I'm all for having an engineer study now, but I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it to pay the money right now. I think we need to, you know, enforce or do some, or just do something other than spending the money on an engineer report, because what's dissipating right now is diesel fuel. So we're going to be facing, this nation is going to be facing a diesel fuel.
Mrs. Jacobson, I hate to
I
cut you
know,
off.
I'm going. But what I'm saying is that there's a lot of variables in this whole thing. So we need to look at it, but unacceptable, these tractor trailers on Centerville Road.
Thank you.
So I did find the full scope of work with the letter associated. Mrs. Schweitzer was just a little off. It's not just under 7, it's actually just under 17,000. $16,663 is the quote for the scope of work that you have provided for you.
617.
$16,663.
Well, I mean, to get the trucks off Centerville Road, if that's feasible, we still need to have a place for them to go, and we have to show that that's workable. We have to justify any signs we have, so sounds like that we need to do it one way or another.
I mean, that's where I'm at. It's got to be done. I don't like the cost. I don't like the number to pay, but I mean, if we're going to move forward and have a plan to direct the trucks north and south, it can't be just done haphazard. It's got to.
It's been needing to be done, so it's unfortunate we didn't do it previously. Might have been a little cheaper, but it is what it is. So I will move to accept the proposal from McMahon Associates for the truck study for the designated roadways north and south in East Hempfield Township.
You mean recommend the board approve?
Recommend that we ask the Board of Supervisors for their concurrence, yes.
There's been a motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Weaver. All those in favor of recommending that we move forward with the scope of service prepared by McMahon Associates, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Up next, we have traffic studies that took place. And we can go down the road here on these pretty quick. Dorcia Road, Mr. LaFever, the 700 block. Looks like on this one, there's only 7% enforceable violations. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Stony Battery Road, the 700 block, and refresh my memory so I'm, because Because I think we have Stony Battery. There's two areas on Stony Battery that we had been looking at. Is that right? Or another one that
We did the counters this round on the 700 block, which
Okay.
is in the area of the warehouses.
okay.
So on this round.
And the 85th percentile was 33 miles per hour, or excuse me, the 85th percentile was 47 miles per hour. Average speed was 41. The speed limit's 35. There were enforceable violations of approximately 22%. Is that correct?
Yes.
Nisley Road, 25-mile-an-hour zone. Average speed was 35. It looks like this is where we do have a problem. 85th percentile is 40 miles per hour and enforceable violations, 45%.
Mr. Weaver, that's your adjacent roadway, correct?
Yeah, I live on it, but further north. This, I believe, was done at the Turkey Hill. But our neighbors have still feel that there's an issue, and this, at least at the Turkey Hill, there's definitely one, and I'm
Okay, okay.
suggest that everyone thinks the whole thing is a problem. It's a big number.
So Chief, is that something we can start targeting?
Yeah, we already have. Based on,
Okay.
when we received those results, we immediately were taken back by that high percentage and have been out doing some enforcement there. And it is on our short list to put our speed signs out. Once we do some enforcement, we'll put the speed signs out, go back out and do some additional enforcement.
I noticed even uphill is just as bad as going down.
It was.
So,
Yep.
both directions.
Wheatland Avenue, and is this the one that, we had the 1600 and the 1700 block?
Right, we had the request to move them a block further west from where they were first placed.
And it looks like at the 1600 block, the average speed was 23 miles per hour. The 85th percentile was 29 miles per hour. And at the 1700 block, the average speed was a little less. It was 21 miles per hour, and the 85th percentile was 27 miles per hour. And in both cases, it looks like enforceable violation is that we saw were 1%. Is that correct? And I'm assuming there's somebody here that wants to speak to that. Is this?
Doing the speed studies for us and for our kids. The one question that I did have was, I think we define enforceable violations as 10 miles per hour over the 25 set speed limit.
Mhm.
And I know the chief of police said it's perspective. If someone drives past you at 25, that feels fast. And so in my absence, my husband drove by at 25 and it felt fast. But then the people that go at 30, 31, that feels super fast, unfortunately, and it's an 18-foot road. So my question is, because it looks like the data will not yield anything other than, could we privately fund a speeds hump as opposed to state and tax money?
Boy, I don't even know. I don't know if we can, I
Like
guess
if you guys
legally we
give the
could look
green
into
light,
that. I guess the
could we
first
have-
question would be, would the board be in favor of something like that? I think we've taken the approach, and I'm just going to speak and lead off this discussion. I know we're running out of time here quickly, so we're going to have to wrap this up. But for us, we really wanted to take an analytical approach because we get these from all over the township, and everybody comes in with these types of issues. And it would be great if, and this has happened to us in the past, we've responded maybe without full logic and analytical data. We've responded with our hearts and tried to solve these problems. And what we've done is we've created more and worse problems. We push traffic to different directions within the neighborhood, cause more traffic to go on streets that maybe were quieter or less. We've had a big pushback against the speed bumps. So, right now, people are here for what they perceive as traffic issues, and they're hoping that the speed bump will solve their problems. What happens is once the speed bumps go up, everybody else comes in and says, hey, what's going on? Why are there speed bumps? There's not really a problem here. and it becomes an issue for us that way. So I think for us, for me, and I'll let everybody else speak on this subject, when I look at this data, I'm very hesitant to want to initiate speed bumps at this location. I don't know, Mr. LaFever, Mr. Weaver, where you two are on this.
This is a result of cut-through traffic that wants to avoid staying in line on Columbia Avenue. I think that's been pretty well established. And earlier this evening, we didn't like the idea of closing a road in the center, but that's the only kind of solution I can see to something like this, because they're going to cut through and they're going to use it and they're going to drive at whatever speed they feel comfortable. And we can't condone that. But if we still allow that Wheatland Avenue to be a straight through shot, we will have this. So.
And a private speed bump sounds like what you're proposing, which is something I never really thought about and I haven't really heard about it, but I'm guessing there's a lot of ramifications to that for like precedents for other neighborhoods and liabilities, snow plows. I just think that would open us or you up to some possible legal action. I mean, I think before we can even put a speed bump, we have to get an engineer to study the road and make sure that that's appropriate. And then they put their license on the line and their seal that they have studied it, and in their professional engineering judgment, that's a possible solution. So for you to take that on, I think would be, for us to condone that would open us up. If you went ahead and did it and we didn't know about it, that would be on you, but I think eventually it would come to our attention, and then I'm guessing we'd have to have it pulled out, or maybe that is the correct solution. I don't think we can really go along with that. Just my opinion.
I think before we even send it to an engineer, just looking at these numbers, we've got to show that there's a problem that needs to be stopped. And when I look at these numbers, it's just not there.
I guess I wonder, why did Barr and Farmingdale, did they have objective data that proved that they needed like 3 speed bumps? And it's just, we're kind of comparable neighborhoods.
Sure.
And it seems like when you go through that neighborhood, it's so dreamy. And then you're on my avenue and it's just like, whoo. And I'm not even nervous now, but fast forward 5 years when all these 3-year-olds are now 8-year-olds on bikes by themselves, it just seems like even more problematic and a little bit more nerve wracking, because I can control my 3 little boys now in strollers and carriers. But then when they want to go like ride up the road, and I don't trust that someone's not barreling down at 33 miles an hour or texting.
So we did have data that showed a pretty significant speeding problem on Farmingdale Road. And in addition, this is what I referred to earlier, that specific development that you mentioned. We tried to solve that and we created problems in other areas in that neighborhood. At some point, it is my belief that this board is going to go back in and fix that. But there's a major project slated for improvements in that area coming up. And I believe before we spend any more money or do anything else, we want that project to be completed first. And then we're going to go back in and take a look at things. So I hope that answers your questions. And it's very valid in regards to Farmingdale.
Thank you.
Question about the same stretch of road as well.
Your name and address for the record, please,
1601 Wheatland Avenue,
and your name.
Meredith Lasden. I will sign in that
Thank you.
as well. So the first time I think we came to this meeting, there was also some talk about a stop sign study, and I was unable to come to the meeting that there was, I guess it was determined that there was no stop signs needed in that area. But I'm questioning that because I live on the corner of Wheatland and Cornell, and specifically at that corner, one has to be in the middle of the intersection before they can see the oncoming traffic. And nearly daily, I have my vehicle's nose out into that intersection and someone comes flying up Wheatland from the dead end part of the road, where you can't see the traffic coming. And I have a vehicle that sits up pretty high, but there's a lot of shrubbery and things in the way from being seen. And I think that at the same intersection that there was the box the first time, what is that road by your house? Yale, yeah. The intersection of Yale and Wheatland has the same issue where it's very hard to see without being out in the intersection. So I know you talked about not using stop signs as a means of controlling speed. However, there is a daily issue with being able to see the traffic coming and nearly being in a car accident. So I'm just wondering, like, if you could provide me with more details about that, or if someone else could come out, I can point that issue out to someone.
One thing I was just going to say is this has been a topic for discussion since I believe started in the May meeting.
Yes.
Certainly there's green growth between May with spring through now. I don't have any objection to, I know Ms. Scarborough was down, I believe was in the end of June that you did a drive-through. Is that correct? Certainly do another drive-through to see if the growth that has occurred from springtime
Sure.
is impeding any type of visibility issues. So,
I'll happily, like, if you want to contact me, point it out.
Okay.
Like where we have the most issues.
that way we can see if there is any type of a site alignment issue that wasn't noticed back in May that could be surfacing at this point.
I think it was Mr. Madonna involved in that as well?
He was.
Okay. So I guess maybe specifically pay attention to that one intersection, Wheatland, and
You got it.
you said Yale and Cornell.
So there's Wheatland, the intersection of Wheatland and Cornell, and Wheatland and Yale.
Right.
Yale is not a through street, but Cornell is.
Okay. So we can take a look at it again, but we are regulated in how we put up stop signs and what they're used for. So we do have specific criteria that we have to follow. Staff did look at it back then and felt that there was we couldn't justify doing it. But again, I think if you feel fine, we can take one more run at it and
Sure.
see. Okay.
Yeah, I
Right.
think, I mean, as Mr. LaFever alluded to, like, there's only so much that can be done, but I think stop signs would also greatly help that area.
It sounds like it's a clear sight triangle issue and I know elsewhere in the township, we've had shrubbery removed
We have. right.
so that we can have visibility because that is critical.
There's shrubbery on the one corner and the other corner is trees and shrubbery, and they have cut down a lot of it and there's still an issue there. So it's just very dense.
Depends how old the development is, but if there's a plan for it and it may already show a clear sight triangle. If it's a really old plan, it may not, but that would still be something that would help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Do we have any old business for the Traffic Commission? Discussion, any new business for discussion on the Traffic Commission? Okay. Any public comment related to Traffic Commission only? This is not for the Board of Supervisors. This would just be Traffic Commission only. So.
Hi there. Bob Myers, 1100 Centerville Road. So I'll make it brief. I know you're running out of time. Just wanted to share a couple things. First of all, we've reached out, Mrs. Jacobson has kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit. We've reached out to the community and have a new action group. It's called the Centerville Road Traffic Group. So we've just met for the first time on Monday night. It was a good meeting, very positive. The mission of the group is the Centerville Road Traffic Group is a body of residents that exists to elevate the safety of the community, including students, pedestrians, and motorists by ensuring secure access, responsible usage, and enforcement of the laws enacted to preserve the quality of life in the neighborhood. So we are here to collaborate. We view safety on a fourfold level. Safety encapsulates and it relates to speed and enforcement of speed. Welcome, Chief. Safety as it relates to pedestrians and students moving through the neighborhood. Safety as it relates to aggressive driving. And also safety as it relates to the elimination of large commercial trucks and truck traffic. So, we believe that rising tide will elevate the quality of life issues if those are resolved. So the real key for us is safety. And we're here to collaborate, work with you on solutions. As far as, we'll be involved with some of these meetings going forward, and you'll see us here. You've seen some of my information. It's very much been perception driven, and I like data, but I also have concerns about how data is collected and what that looks like and where that data is collected. So, perspective and perception, is a part of people's lives. So living on Centerville Road, we get a very clear perspective of what is going on. And sometimes that doesn't show up in the data. So we're here to start working together, and just wanted to announce the presence of the group.
Appreciate it. Did you sign in by chance, sir?
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
And thank you for what you do.
Hello, my name is Alex DeMarzio. I live at 2311 Marietta Avenue. I'm sort of on the other side of Rorastown. So I know we talked a little bit about it. First thing I'd like to ask is, have there been any traffic studies for Marietta Ave? I assume there have been, but
There have been.
from Marietta and Rorastown to that bridge over Route 30?
We just did one, and we're going to redo it in the area of St. Leo's, and then we did it at the area of the pantry. And we're going to do a recount and incorporate Running Pump Road.
Okay. I've lived in the community for 6 years now. I'm originally from West Philadelphia. And I came here 3 years ago. Mr. LaFever, I believe you were here. And you're the only gentleman I remember. And I asked the committee to kind of look into Marietta Avenue and what we could do, because I'm no expert in it. I'm a teacher. I don't do traffic. However, in my 6 years of living there, we have had 6 accidents outside of my house alone, just with our cars. We park on the right of the white line. We try our best to be cautious and put on our hazards every time. Just recently, the most recent accident, a gentleman went over the white line, totaled our car, flipped over his car, and skidded up that hill. There has been 2 new neighbors in the last year. And in the last year, there have been 2 accidents at their house as well. One was just moved in 3 months ago and had an accident where a gentleman fell asleep, went over the white line, hit their mailbox. It's just very troubling. What I'd like to do is kind of bring some suggestions if possible. I know there's no way for us to handle the speed, and that's not what I'm going to talk about today. Really, what I'd like to is suggest is if there's any possibility of putting in rumble strips on those white lines. It seems that in the 6 years that I've been there, most of the time, people have just not noticed that they've been over the white line for whatever reason, obviously distracted driving. And I think if there was something, a quick jolt, like the rumble strips, that it would get them back over quickly. Or in that case of hitting the mailbox, the gentleman would wake up hopefully and get back over, and it could have avoided that accident. We know this is a heavy congested area when it comes to children. I see in the morning with the bus routes right there on Elizabeth and Marietta. And then we also have a daycare right there. So obviously children is a concern. I also would like to suggest rumble strips going down Route 23 East Bridge over Route 30 because we have tractor trailers. We have a lot of cars coming down that hill and they just gain speed. And I wasn't sure if it's possible to put in rumble strips to make them aware to slow down as they're coming down that hill. On a side note, out of Marietta on Mill Street, when you come down Mill Street, that alleyway, there's a turn and Mill Street continues, but then it goes to Elizabeth Street. There is a blind spot right there. And I know when I brought this up 3 years ago, the committee had said that the owner of the resident of that corner home had a mirror put in there. And that home has flipped 3-4 times since the last 3 years ownership. And the mirror is not there. It is a very easy turn to get into an accident. It's almost happened to me a couple times, and I take that alley every day. Even though we go slow, there's not a lot of people speeding there. It's just the fact that it's that corner home that's red. It's a blind spot and it could easily turn into an accident there. So I would just ask if someone could drive by it, check it out, see your thoughts on it. If we could put a mirror there, I think that would resolve some concerns. There also are people parking on Mill Street, which in my opinion should not be allowed. That alleyway is so small that even my small car, Dodge Dart, it's hard to get 2 cars. And a lot of times I have to go into people's property just to pass if there's another car coming. So there are people parking on Mill Street in that alleyway. And I would ask that if we could have a car go by, there is usually people there every day parking there illegally. At least I think it is legal.
Is it posted currently?
I don't know if there's any no parking posted, but their garages, their parking that they're allowed to have is filled with cars, and then the one car they drive is parked out in the front on the alleyway. And that's multiple residences. So I don't know if it's posted. I don't think there is any no parking sign, so that might be one issue. But I can't imagine that parking should be allowed there, considering the fact that that alley is so small already. Every day I have to drive around vehicles into people's properties just to get out of my own house, because I'm not allowed. I don't know technically if I'm not allowed, but I'm not allowed to go the other way of the alleyway because that goes through a church. And they've made it pretty clear that they don't want people going through their property to get out onto Marietta Avenue, if you know where I'm talking about. I wasn't sure if it's possible if we could get a crosswalk on Elizabeth Street and Route 30 that leads to Church Street behind Salem UCC. Oh, I'm sorry, on crosswalk with white lines, with reflectors or anything, even just the white lines on Elizabeth Street and Route 23. There's nothing there right now, and I see every day kids walking that, and it's just very dangerous. Like I said, there's nothing we can do with speed, but at least we have something, a crosswalk for them, because there's a bus stop right there. 2 things, I'm sorry. I know it's a lot. I apologize. It's been 3 years. I'm one of the representatives. I'm a manager of the property of Salem UCC at 2312 Marietta Avenue. And I do have a question for the alleyway that's there called Church Street. Is it the township's responsibility to put up no parking signs? Because we have had a lot of people parking on that alley, which I know shouldn't be allowed because we've been told by police officers that they are not allowed to park on that alley right behind the church. Is it the church's responsibility or is it the township's responsibility to put up signs that say no parking on that strip?
Are they restricting the cartway to less than 8 feet?
Possibly if there are cars parked there. So if there are cars parked in the parking lot and there is a car parking on the alley, it's possible, but I can't say definitively. So if I get a tape measure and it is possible, then what are you saying, sir?
I would think that would be a significant motivation to address the issue, yes.
Okay, I can gather that and try to come to another meeting with that information. Okay. And the last thing is, I don't know if this is the committee's responsibility, but the trees and shrubbery over the bridge of Route 30 on 23 is pretty significant. I run that every day and I'm hitting those. I'm having to go into the street and go around it. Now, it could have been taken care of yesterday. I haven't looked at it recently, but I have to go into the street and around them just to run that sidewalk, kind of after St. Leo's, if that makes sense.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Your rumble strip suggestions, is that as is done often on the center line of a roadway, or are you thinking of strips of a length or something like that, different than what's done at the center of a roadway?
So 2 different types of strips. The one would be right on top of the white lines. I believe they're called the fog lines.
Mm.
Okay, right on the fog lines. I believe if you have it to the right of the fog line into the parking area of the pedestrians or the residents, I don't think that would be sufficient because most of the accidents are when people are over that line. So I think on the line or to the left of it would be sufficient. The second type of rumble strips that I suggested would be those longer ones that are coming down that hill, that bridge, after St. Leo's.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Well, I'm concerned it would be confused by someone who's distracted, sleep-wise or otherwise, that all once they hear that and they mistake that for a center line.
I
And it
see.
exacerbates the problem.
Okay. I leave that up to your expertise, to be quite honest.
So I'm going to ask you to do a favor. Can you email Mrs. Garber and copy our manager, Mrs. Schweitzer, with all the concerns that you have just outlined so that we can give you a detailed and comprehensive response to each one as far as what we can, what we can't do. So I know it's going to take some time for us to look into it. Some of these are state roads. We're not going to have the ability to do some of those things, but maybe we can assist. And did you sign in?
I did, sir. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It'll be helpful for meeting purpose minimum.
Of course. Thank you for all your help. I appreciate it.
I'll
Thank
get you a
you.
business card before you leave.
Thanks.
Anyone else for the Traffic Commission? Okay. All right, hearing none, we're going to adjourn the Traffic Commission meeting at 7:17. And we will be back in 3 minutes to begin the Board of Supervisors meeting at 7:20.
Just a reminder to anyone who spoke to the board, please make sure that you signed in